Hello everybody, I hope you are having a pleasant day. Today we are here at Next IS for the daily news analysis, and today is 3rd of January, Saturday, and these are a few news articles in the prominent newspapers today. Okay, so before we get into the news articles, let's just go through a very beautiful quote by Charles Darwin. He says that it is not the strongest of the species that survives, nor the most intelligent. It is the most adaptable to change. So, the only predictability of this life is that it is unpredictable. Okay, and according to the time, you will have to change, you will have to adapt. The moment you stop adapting, your progress will also be stopped. Okay, so whichever phase of life you are in right now, whatever you are doing right now, you will have to maneuver your changes according to the situation, according to the time, and pan out good strategies, work hard for that, work smart for it, and then achieve what you are aiming for. On that note, let us go on to the first article. So, the first article is related to Assam tribal body, as it has rejected the minister's proposal to grant ST status to 6 OBC communities. Okay. So, you know about scheduled areas. Okay. You know about scheduled areas, you know about the tribal areas in India, and there is a process of declaring a particular community as a tribal community. Once it is declared under the presidential order of 1950, it will find its name, and after that, that community will get the benefits of reservation, the other benefits associated with it. Okay, so now in Assam, what exactly happened was that there was a proposal to include 6 communities into the tribal scheduled order of tribal communities. Okay, now when this proposal was brought in, it was rejected by this tribal body. Okay, so now, what are the issues pertaining to that and why it was rejected is what this article talks about. Okay, so the legal and political opposition by the Assam's established tribes against granting ST status to 6 OBC communities, citing that there is a criteria, citing that there is a criteria of Lokur committee. This Lokur committee actually gave out 5 basic principles which are needed to include a particular community into the scheduled list, scheduled tribe list. Okay, if the community satisfies these 5 principles, then that community can be declared as a tribal community. Okay, and now with these communities being proposed, the body thought that there will be dilution in the pro forma and reservation quotas, which are actually more than 50% in Assam because of the tribal population over there. Okay, so this is the basic context of this article. So, now there is a coordination committee of tribal organization of Assam, which is representing 14 established tribes in the Assam. Okay, so it is Odisha which has the largest number of tribes, diversity of tribes. On the other hand, Assam has somewhere around like 14 tribal communities, and these tribal communities formed a body which is called as the Coordination Committee of Tribal Organizations. Okay, and now this body actually scrutinizes the inclusion, exclusion, or any issues with respect to the tribal communities, submission of reports and all those things. Okay, and now this committee, when the GOM ministers have brought in the recommendation for inclusion of 6 communities, this committee actually rejected it. Okay, now what are these 6 communities? These 6 communities are Kuch, Rajbongsi, Chutia, Matak, Moran, Tai Om and T tribes. Okay, so now the government proposal was on November 2025. Okay, and the group of ministers suggested that a new 3-tier classification to satisfy the all 6 parties. Okay, excluding the Lokur committee. It said that the group of ministers actually said that we will establish a new way of inclusion of 6 communities. These are, they should be in the ST plain, they should be in ST hill, or they should be in the ST valley. Okay, a new category specifically for these 6 communities was introduced. Okay, so now based on this, the group of ministers try to propose that 6 communities have to be included. Okay, now what are the legal arguments which states that for the inclusion or exclusion? Okay, now the committee actually rejected based on the 5 principles which were established by the Lokur committee of 1965. Okay, so now so in 1935, okay, there was already 1935 Act. There was already a list of scheduled, so not scheduled tribes but backward tribes. There was one list, and post independence it was continued. And to review the list of the tribes, now there was a committee. This committee established 5 principles. Okay, what are these 5 principles? These are the indicators of primitive traits, distinctive culture, geographical isolation, shyness of contact with the other community at large, and the 5th one is the backwardness. Okay, backwardness in social and economic terms. Okay, so now these are the 5 different criteria. Okay, now I'll write the 5th one. Okay, so now the mainstream argument which states that so it says that there are 2 communities which are the Taya homes and Chutias have historically been part of the mainstream Assamese social fabric, but you see that shyness of contact with the community at large is one of the major important criteria. Okay, so and these were not identified as tribes in the joint report of Bordolai Tucker subcommittee of 1950 of the Constitutional Order. Okay, so this is one of the mainstream argument which states that these communities are already in the mainstream communities, and we cannot give, because all the 5 principles that the Lokur committee actually states, these communities are not exactly fitting that principles. Okay, fitting into that principles. Okay, so now the what reclassification as scheduled caste in other states with respect to the scheduled tribe reclassification in the particular state. So what it says that the major legal hurdle mentioned in some of these groups, like the Kuch Rajbongshi, are already classified as scheduled caste in other states. Okay, as we all know that there is a principle of territoriality with respect to classification of a particular community as a scheduled tribe. Okay, so a particular scheduled tribe can be a scheduled tribe in a particular community, can be a scheduled tribe in one state, and that community can be SC, BC in other states as well. Okay, now this is one of the argument which was placed. Okay, and also now there is a 50% reservation cap in the Indraswamy judgment, which stated that the reservation provided to the community should not breach more than 50%. Okay, to forward the merit as well. Okay, now the Assam current reality is that it is already has 59%, and now there is a fear that adding these 6 large communities could push the quota beyond 70%, which would be again struck down by the courts. Okay, so and also the reservation is often based on the population size, and 6 massive community if join the ST list, the existing tribes will actually face the fear of losing. Okay, so these are the few arguments which it has stated. And now, so it's just not about just the jobs, because the issue is that OBCs do not have reserved seats in the state assembly or panchayat. By gaining ST status, these communities would gain access to the reserved constituencies, which now which will lead to the political destruction of their representation at every level, from village level to the Lok Sabha. So these are the various major issues that the article tries to show. Okay, so in this, what is exactly important for us is that what is the process of what is the process of inclusion of a particular community into a scheduled tribe. And if a very important fact that you also need to understand, remember, is that the particular community can be a scheduled tribe in one area and it cannot be scheduled tribe in another area. Okay, you can quote these sorts of arguments in your mains answers as well. Okay, for the affirmative action benefits, how a particular community would try to gain importance, okay, by these sorts of means. Okay, now that being said, okay, now this completes our first article. Okay, so now let us move on to the second article. The second article is transforming a waste-ridden urban India. Okay, so the author of this particular article is Akshay Raut. He was the former director of Swachh Bharat Mission. Okay, so he tries to highlight what are the commitments that we have given in the recent UNFCCC COP conferences, and what progress we have made with respect to urban waste management. Okay, along with that, he tries to highlight what are the issues that we certainly have right now and how they can be managed in the future. Okay, so what is the context? The article outlines the India's strategic transition from linear to a circular urban waste management model. Circular urban waste management model driven by national philosophies like Mission Life and international climate commitments. It details the challenges and managing diverse waste streams for a rapidly urbanizing populations, and introduction of the new regulatory frameworks such as 2025 waste management rules aimed at achieving garbage free cities. Okay, see, if you ask me now, urban waste management is, or rural waste management per se is not just a administrative problem, it is also an attitudinal problem. Okay, so if you take the example of Japan, if you take the example of any other country, now there are strict laws about littering. Okay, you will be thrown into jail immediately if you litter. Okay, so but again, now to get there, we'll have to make some progress with respect to the kind of developmental model that we have chosen. We can't just immediately impose fines, okay? We can't just take plenary actions, because that might have different repercussions. Now, that being said, the attitudinal change is very, very, very important above everything, okay? Now, once that is done, after that, the administrative level changes, which we are trying to focus, also takes the precedence, okay? Now, now the global context and the national philosophy. So this argument, this article actually says that, the author actually says that, see, we have already committed in various conferences such as COP30, where UN summit, which was hosted by Brazil, they placed the waste management as the center of the climate agenda, okay? And non-organic waste, a global initiative launched to commit funds towards cutting down the methane emissions, okay, and mission life, which was actually launched by India, okay. So what it says, that the concept of, it promotes the deliberate utilization instead of mindless and destructive consumption, okay. Now for all these changes to occur, we require a change in the, a shift in the model per se, from a linear model, which is make, use, dispose, to use, first reduce, use, reuse and recycle. Now this is known as the circular model. Okay. So now this is known as the circular model, where you will see that the waste which was ready for the disposal is treated as a valuable input. Understood? Yeah. So now the scale of the urban crisis. So it talks about the scale of the urban crisis, which we have a massive waste burden right now growing in. Okay. So the current and the future projections are that by 2030, Indian cities are estimated around to generate 165 million tons of waste. Okay, emitting 41 million tons of greenhouse gases. And again, this by 2050, you will see the urban population going around 814 million, and the waste burden will again increase to 436 million tons. Okay, now that being said, the national targets for the garbage-free cities is achieving this is described as the existential necessity. It talks about existential necessity. Okay, fine. Now, the Swachh Bharat Mission Urban 2.0 currently aims about 1,100 cities and towns are rated free of dump sites, and the goal is to bring to all the 5,000 cities and towns in a circular economy model. Okay, so these are a few very important details that this article talks about. Okay, and also next, the sector specific waste management, which is the organic and municipal waste. Okay, more than 50% of the municipal waste is organic, and the processing can be done through the biomethanation plants, and the energy recovery through the compressed biogas. Now, the issue here is this is not the major issue, because this is biodegradable. If this is managed well, then there wouldn't be a major issue. But the issue would come with the dry waste, which is called as the demon. Okay, now this is the plastic, which is the toughest challenge, because it challenges the very existence of the ecosystems, and there is a dependency. This success depends on the source segregation and expansion of the material recovery facilities. Okay, so now this would require a different technology, this would require a different administrative system, this would require a different type of management. Okay, so and also there is another kind of waste, that is the construction and demolition waste. Okay, if you see in countries such as China and Korea, where the construction is going on, it is not like us, where they are openly shown like that, and all the PM 2.5, PM 10, okay, and other waste particles are just let into the air. There are water sprinklers, there are perfect blinds, okay, covers, which are planted and in and around the construction site. Okay, now that is there, but here it is not there. What we have is that right now we generate somewhere around 12 million tons per year. Okay, and the problem is that the unauthorized dumping on the roadside causes significant problem, and the regulatory timeline, while the 2016 rules exist, the new construction waste management rules of 2025 will take effect from the April 2026. Okay, and now the next problem, first is the biodegradable waste, second is the plastic waste, which is major demon, third is the construction waste, and fourth one, he talks about the waste water. Okay, now the circular management also includes the blue thread, which is the wastewater, and the water missions such as Amrut, Swachh Bharat mission linkage. These are all there for the fecal sludge management and the strategic reuse, because the India's water stock is inadequate. Treated wastewater must be recycled for agriculture, horticulture and industrial processes. Okay, and you all know that how our rivers, especially Ganga, Yamuna and all the major rivers, are being polluted with the waste being thrown into this, waste being flown into this rivers. Okay, so yeah, so it requires a strategic reuse. That's what the author talks about. And now, so again he mentions there are a few barriers for the success, and now for barriers for the achieving the circular economy. First one is the logistic one, where there is a poor source segregation, except for the few models such as Chandigarh and Indore. You will not see the very good source segregation, collection and processing. Next one is the market, which is the recycled products are there. Now where will you sell them? Who will buy them? What are the arenas available? Those are not perfectly there. Next one is the policy. Now EPR is not yet applied to all dry waste categories, and lack of tracing and tracking of the C&D waste. Construction and demolition, everybody is now, the problem is that everybody will, if you see on roads, you might have seen this, they are constructing something and immediately they will dismantle it. Once they dismantle it, that is, the waste is thrown directly onto the road. There is nobody is made liable for this. Okay, yeah, so that is a policy issue altogether. Now there is an institutional issues where municipalities face resource shortfalls, need for better interdepartmental coordination. For example, now there is a nala closure somewhere, and now there are different departments involved for the replenishing of it. Okay, now one person will come and remove the sludge and he will throw away onto the road and he will move, saying that my work is over. And now that waste will sediment there, it will be there on that, somebody will, some dog will come and somebody will step his foot or some car will come and that is segregated everywhere. And now after a good amount of time, some other person will come, okay, some other department will come and they will start renovation. But there should have been a coordination between these two, saying that aaj maine ye remove kar diya, and next immediately you will have to come and you will have to do it. There will be name calling, there will be CL mudslinging attitude where they will try to say that the issue is yours, the issue is mine. Okay, so yeah, that sort of coordination issues. Next one is the social issue. In consumerist society, the first are reduce, second is reuse, are difficult to achieve because पैसा है अपने पास, खर्च कर देंगे, उसमें क्या ही है. Okay, why would I want to 200 रुपये में 300 रुपये में मुझे अगर कुछ मिलना है तो मैं बस ये लेके फेंक दूंगा ना उसको. Why do I want to reuse? Okay, this is a sort of attitudinal problem. Now talks about the collaborative solutions for this. What are the solutions for this? Says that the National Urban Conclave, a recent meeting of the New Delhi where the policy makers and the industry leaders deliberated on the urban energy division, and Cities Coalition for the Circularity, an Indian innovative endorsed by Asia Pacific nations in Jaipur. Okay, and the final pillar is the ultimate goal is to make citizens partners in the movement by helping them understand the profit and causes behind the 3 R's, which is reduce, reuse and recycle. This can be your excellent conclusion for your answers, where the people should be made as partners. Okay, in the moment of cleaning the environment, the people should be as a partners rather than passive bystanders. Okay, so this completes the article. Now we will move on to the next article. So the next article is the energy transitioning will need more than chasing sun or the wind. This was written by a research scholar from London School of Economics. Okay, where she talks about the renewable energy that we are trying to chase right now. It is not just about harvesting energy from the sun and wind. There is much more operational, there is much more logistical, there is much more management issues that we need to focus on, and what are those pitfalls and how we need to solve them. Okay, now India's energy transition has shifted from the generation challenge to a structural one, requiring urgent reforms in the power distribution and wholesale marketing design. It emphasizes that the achieving a green grid depends on moving away from the volumetric sales towards automated smart technologies and centralized economic dispatch to manage renewable variability. Okay, so I found it that this article was very interesting as the power sector in India, there is a wide demand growing on right now, and with this demand going on, we need to understand that there at all the pain points of the energy harvesting to transmission and to utilization, you need to have a holistic strategy. Okay, so our policy focus till now is about harvesting more, cheap harvesting, but seldom do we understand that it is harvesting was only one part, right utilization, right transmission. Okay, now that's what this article actually talks about. So now it says that we have built around 180 gigawatts of solar and wind capacity. Okay, but now these green electrons, we are actually harvesting them properly, but their bottlenecks have now shifted from building to managing the grid. What are these bottlenecks? First one is called as the DISCOM issue. Okay, now the distribution companies, okay, are the central actors in the transition, but they face systemic issues. First one is the AT&C model, which is the aggregate technical and commercial losses remain high, which is approximately 16%. Okay, which means that we are able to produce the electricity, but what is happening is that the commercial losses or the transmission losses, which remains very high, and the revenue models, they rely more on the volumetric model, which is sell more units for the more money. On the other hand, the energy efficiency, it actually reduces the sales and their ability to cover the fixed cost. Okay. Now, the cross subsidization. What is cross subsidization? The commercial and industrial customers pay higher tariffs to subsidize the household and agriculture. You know that the agriculture, they are given free of electricity. Okay. And customers move to the rooftop or open access, buying the power elsewhere, and the DISCOM lose their high margin revenue while still being obliged to serve the low paying customers. Okay. Now, what is the backup dilemma? There is a under net metering is everything is there, but this net metering actually use the grid as a fee battery, drawing the power of at night, but not fully compensating the DISCOMs for maintaining the infrastructure. Okay. Now, the next one it talks about is the retail reform, which is the smart technology and tariffs. Now, there is a to bridge the gap between the supply variability and consumer demand. This article proposes a transition from the modern to a modern grid foundation. What is that? Time of the day tariffs, automation over manual responses and manual responses, okay, and also the flexibility. So now, time of the day tariffs. So India's metered price signals that changed based on the time of the day. Currently, only 49 smart meters are installed, okay, and automation over manual responses. Usually, as of now, the smart technologies such as smart thermostats, smart TV charging, and appliances level automation has not been there. And the flexibility of automated demand responses can manage the short duration peak more cost effectively than building a new grid altogether. Now, it also talks about the wholesale market reforms. Now, what are these wholesale market reforms? Okay. Now, the problem of self-scheduling. Most powers are tied up with the long-term contracts where the DISCOMs self-schedule their own contracted plans. Only 7 to 9% of electricity is traded on organized power exchanges. Okay, says that everything is like already predetermined and fixed. Okay, there is no or very less sort of flexibility is there. And next one is the market-based economic dispatch. The proposed reform would create a nationalized centralized framework. Okay, on the impact would be estimated saving of 1.6 billion annually. Okay, and next is the captive power plants. The integrating these large underutilized power sources into the wholesale market would increase the competition and liquidity. Okay, and to conclude, says that the energy transition transforms DISCOM from the passive intermediaries to active optimizers, balancing the demand and the supply in the real time. Okay, now, and this transition success will depend upon the better service quality. Okay, better service quality, and the support will go, and if it leads to uncertainty or instability, resistance to green energy will actually increase. Okay, so yeah, this is the article, and we will this is the article. Okay, so it actually talks about how even though we are actually generating the green electricity right now, but the DISCOM issues, which are currently very important, the operational and systemic issues are there. Unless and until we are solving these issues, there is no point in generating the electricity, because if there is no right intensive, then who will actually come and take this electricity, buy this electricity, which are not incentivized. Okay, so this completes our article. Now let us move on to the next article. So this next article talks about 35% of the big project issues due to land acquisition, says the Cabinet Secretary. Okay, so now the Cabinet Secretary has said that the land acquisition, there are a few issues between the land acquisition and the developmental projects. Okay, so and he actually mentions in one of his press conferences that why, how, and how much are there the land acquisition issues. Okay, so we will see in this article. Fine. So now the article discusses about the 35% of the delays in the Indian major infrastructure projects are caused by the land acquisition hurdles, though the government maintains that it will not change the existing laws to preserve the democratic consent. It highlights the Pragati framework as the primary tool for resolving it. Okay. So now what is Pragati? Pragati is nothing but a timely implementations, a digital platform designed to speed the stalled project, where the online very much of internet integrated online platform, the projects which are there which require a green signal from the different ministries, okay, especially the environment ministry, and also the projects which require the land acquisition are forwarded through this portal, that is the Pragati portal. Okay, it functions as a monthly check-in where the Prime Minister directly interacts with the state and the central officials. Okay, it monitors the projects worth over, what is Pragati monitors projects over 500 crore, and in the last decade it has reviewed more than 3,300 worth projects with around 85 lakh crore. Okay, and the goal is to cover the coordination gap between the central and the states. Okay. Now, Cabinet Secretary actually mentioned this data that the large scale projects rarely fail due to lack of money. Okay, for example, building a national highway, dams and all those things, they rarely fail because of lack of money, because money is not a big issue, but all the ancillary processes which are required, though they are the major issues. And in that, the impact percentage of land acquisition is around 35%, forest and wildlife is around 20%, and right of use is around 18%. And why is land acquisition the biggest issue? See, in a democracy, we can't just go and grab someone's land at one go, even though in other countries it might occur, but not in India. Okay. So now that will require a process where the compensation, consent and rehabilitation are there. Okay, it has to pass through all these three stages, and then only after that court cases will come. Once that court cases are done, and again appeal for them will be done. Okay, all these things are very much there. Now, the democracy versus the speed of execution. So now the consultation and consent are very much important, and there needs to be a balance between them. And he says that there is no requirement for the change in law, but now convincing people is another art, okay, that we need to master, and with a highly diverse country and growing awareness about the rights and all those important all those important factors such as assertion, pressure groups, okay, environmental pressure groups, backward class pressure groups are there. So what they try to do is that they will try to fight for the justice unless and until the compensation is required, is attained for them. And again, court case, Tariq pe Tariq will come, and after that there are delays and delays, further delays, and then you will be able to see the light of land acquisition. Okay, fine. So now it's a Cabinet Secretary has said that there is no very much requirement for the change in the law, which is the law is very much comprehensive. Okay, so now the actually Prime Minister personally through this Pragati portal, he personally oversees the high priority projects. For example, the recently around 382 project reviewed and issues raised and issues resolved. Okay, and the sectors which he says that roads and highways are around 114 projects, railways are 119 projects, and power are 54 projects. Okay, so Now recently there was a rail link of Jammu Kashmir to Udhampur to Srinagar to Baramulla. Work began in 1995, yet is still being discussed in the meetings today. This illustrates how the geography, security and land issues can halt or can prolong in different way. Okay, so now we need a robust monitoring mechanism, and Pragati is one of the best mechanisms, okay, there. So it needs to be strengthened, okay, and the process has to be very consultative, consent oriented, collaborative oriented, understanding oriented, and in this way you will be able to see the progress. But still, again, the development requires time, and we are not an autocratic nation, we are a democratic nation. Okay, so whatever your decision you'll have to take, it will have political repercussions, social repercussions, okay, it will have the environmental impact, it will have the social impact. So all these things have to be taken into consideration, and that's the reason why you will see that the infrastructure development, though money is not an issue, the time overrun and cost overrun are generally there, but that is a very complex issue which needs to be resolved. Now we will move on to the next article. So the next article is a very interesting article. I found it very interesting. Okay, it is a very much of a solution based article. Okay, so now we are all complaining about the pollution, we are all complaining about the stubble burning, we are all okay, and for all the stubble burning and all those things, it requires a different way of management, because see, stubble burning is not a very singular compartmentalized issue. Okay, now if you go to if you see the air quality issue with respect to the Delhi NCR or the surrounding areas, okay, now the stubble burning is occurring somewhere, they don't feel the heat of that stubble burning, they don't feel the effect of the stubble burning, that but the geography which is, you know, blessed by, where we are blessed by geography, and because of the geography and also pertinent mismanagement and no forward looking policy with respect to infrastructure development, okay, and this has led to the current issue of the air quality deterioration. Okay, now this article actually talks about providing solutions with respect to how farmers can actually cut the methane and make money out of it. Okay, see, now for example, now as I was talking about the stubble burning and all those things, now everybody knows that there is a problem, okay, and we need a solution for it. Now farmers also know that they are not supposed to burn, but they're still burning it. Why? Because we're not providing them right incentive to remove that, and also the common perception is there that how the how actually stubble burning will actually replenish the soil there. Okay, now if we are giving them any incentive, then there will be a progress in that area. Okay, now that being said, now let us see what this article actually talks about. Okay, now see, now paddy is grown in the wide part of India, and now this paddy actually is the source of methane, and methane is a greenhouse gas, very potent greenhouse gas, okay, hundreds and 200 times more potent than the carbon dioxide. Okay, so now and it is also a very stable compound. Okay, now we follow a particular way of cultivating the paddy crop, which will have the this paddy growing in the waterlogged condition for a while. Now this there is a research, okay, and a new innovation by a Bangalore based company, which stated that if we are rather than waterlogging the paddy field completely, we will have a alternative dry and wet period, that is called as AWD. So now by alternating this dry and wet period, you will be able to see that the methanogens which are producing the methane, the anaerobic bacteria, that can be reduced. Okay, that's what this article talks about. Now, firstly, it talks about that the CH4 is the root cause, okay, of the methane, which is caused due to the continuous flooding of the or continuously waterlogging of the paddy fields, okay, and the submerging the fields with 4 to 5 centimeters of water creates a very good space for the anaerobic bacteria, and these bacteria, methanogenic bacteria such as archaea and bacteria, decompose organic material into oxygen in the oxygen free condition, and that will lead to the greenhouse effect, which is 28% more, 28 times more than the global warming potential of CO2, and has over 100 years period. Now, what's the technological solution? This is it says that the technological solution is the alternating wetting and drying. Rather than having the continuous cycle of wetting period, we can have the flood the field with the first 20 days. After the next 45 days, implement 2 dry downs of 6 days each, and drain the water to 15 to 16 centimeters below the surface level during these windows. Okay, nothing but rather than flooding them continuously, let's just reduce the let's just primarily reduce the water level. Okay, now, so the flooding is the most critical during the first 65 days. After this, the crop moves into the reproductive phase, and constant flooding is not or less necessary. Okay, so now that is the one part. Now, okay, I am doing this. Now, what is the benefit for me? Why should I do this? Because water has been produced, water and electricity are right now free for the farmer, most of them. So what incentive will I have? I am already gaining good amount of money from this. So the most innovative part of the lesson is how the climate tech startup like Miti Labs are actually monetizing this change. First, how do they do it? You might have read about the carbon credits. Now they will use the carbon credits. First, the direct measurement. The acrylic chambers are placed in the field to collect the gas samples, which are analyzed via gas chromatography to verify the actual emissions. After that, the carbon credits, the verified reductions, are sold as carbon credits in domestic and international markets. And now this market value is also 15 to 25 per ton. Okay, and around 1 hectare will generate around 2.5 tons of CO2. Okay, and this way the farmer can actually recover somewhere around $35.7, which is 3,300 per hectare per crop. Now this is the incentive. The large industries and all those who wants to offset their emissions can buy these credits. Now we'll have to scale this industry. Now recently Miti Labs, actually it is 11,300 farmers in 2024 and 2025 have already been collaborating, and they are expecting around 69,000 farmers across India's 5 states, because we are giving them incentive. And now the Good Rice Alliance is also promoting the alternating wetting and drying and direct seeding, which bypass the nursery and the transplanting phase. So you know this, right? Initially the seedlings are put in and farmed in a small area. After that, they are transferred into the main paddy field. Okay. So again, this will also increase the carbon footprint. So now the strategic importance is, since India is the world's top rice producer and exporter, these changes have global climate implications, because the scale with which the India produces the rice. Okay. So now this is one of the very innovative way, alternative wetting and drying. Okay. So this might be useful for you, and UPSC might ask in a prelims or mains perspective. Okay, so now that completes today's DNA discussion. I hope the session was informative for you. Okay, thank you so much, and have a great day.